Arise, minions, and welcome to unMadeGaming. We are here. We are back for another one of our monthly Ask a Lich, and we have this is several months in a row. Wow, we're crushing it. We're crushing it on this timeline. And I didn't forget to have my take my headphones off. Like I always do, because there's no actual sound or no need to have my headphones on in this stream currently. I am so tired. Just for the record, in case anyone was wondering, the current state of your streamer, sleepy. Sleepy. My ears thank me. Yeah, that's true. My mother sent me a meme about like nerds wearing headsets all the time and how they slowly like make a dent in your head, and it was like a whole thing that I'm like, well, I'm so glad I don't have a dent. Got a nice round head up there. Yeah, that's my mother for us. It has been a little bit of a catch up time. It has been a fucking whirlwind of stuff that was going on. Like, it's been nonstop. It has not stopped. Let me see here. Let's go back. Let's go back in time on the old calendar. Here. Let's see. On the last week of June, or last week of June. Jesus. On the last week of April. Yeah, that sounds right. So we did Ask a Lich on April 15th. That was our last one of these. And that week we had Alien, we had Shattered Crown, we had the Age of Always, we had the Rise. And then the following weekend we had more Alien, more Shattered Crown, Patreon one-shots, Mundus Novus, a Tales from the Loop game at home, and then a D&D game that Monday, into more Alien, more Shattered Crown, and then military duty. And then the following day after military duty, I flew to California to go run some games for Blizzard, where I had a fucking opportunity of a lifetime, which was super rad, to go run some games at the Blizzard headquarters for some sick-ass Blizzard employees. And then I came immediately home to do some Shattered Crown prep, Crystal Legacy, Patreon campaign, and Session 0 for our other game. And then after the Session 0, I had Tales from the Loop, my home game. And then now today, Ask Lich. This weekend we have back-to-back one-shots and Mundus Novus. And then after Mundus Novus, I have another Tales from the Loop home game, followed by D&D on Monday at my home game. It's been a lot. It's been a lot. I am adjusting to my new batshit crazy work schedule. Can't complain. Loving it. There's only one shot this weekend. What time? What? Okay. I didn't realize there was only one shot this weekend. Good thing G keeps me in check. Lectu, hey, how's it going? Broken Logic, how's it going? Only the early slot is this weekend. Okay, sick. Okay. That's one less thing to plan, and I can update my calendar accordingly. I missed the bus on that one. Cool. I'll update that. Excuse me. Yeah, cool. So this isn't the catch-up show. This is the Ask Lich show. So if you're new here or you're not new here, either way, we have a list of questions asked by our patrons in a exclusive little chat in our Discord. If you are not in the Discord, you should be. fuck are you doing? But also, if you are live here watching us on either YouTube or Twitch, feel free to ask questions in the chat. Just preface them with the word question. And I say that, let me go ahead and open up my phone like a pro streamer and just double check that if anyone gave a shit about my social media and commented on anything. So far, nope, not on Instagram. And nope. Not on TikTok either. But if you're, holy shit, Paul, you're not new here. You've been here before. But Paul, if you have questions about tabletop, about the things we do here, community management, which you shouldn't, me, fatherhood, I don't know, what it was like going to Blizzard, just ask him. Just preface it with the word question. And just as a reminder, we're on all the social medias, so if you can't get enough of us and you want more, harass me on the other social medias, and I will probably post. I don't know. So far, the only person that harasses me to post things is G. So if you really want me to post more things, just find me on that social media and harass me about it. Neutro, how's it going? Paul, welcome on both chats. All right, cool. Let's jump in. Lectu says, I want to hear more about the Western sci-fi that you're GMing. You know what? I'm going to tackle Paul's question first. How was Blizzard? Where's the details? Oh my God, there's a bug. Fortunately, Paul, you're not going to annoy me by being both on Twitch and on YouTube because I have a multi-stream chat and I can see you on both of them and it's fine. You'll annoy G about it. Blizzard was fucking great. Pictures are pending. There will be pictures. I'm just getting final checks in the box for permission to share stuff. But essentially, I was asked to come out to Blizzard. They were doing a departmental meeting, and they flew me out there to run D&D for a number of their teams. So everyone as a method of team building. So rather than doing an obstacle course or some sort of icebreaker challenge or something like that. So I created a one shot in a homebrew setting that barely exists. So the only thing that I have about the homebrew setting is that there is a town of Goldhaven from which the players were leaving. And there is the city of Zephyria from which the players were headed to. And that there is a technology level that they have elemental powered trains. So it started off where they were all part of a crew hired by a mysterious benefactor to rob a train. And on the train there was a gnome artificer, which I think his name was Brolin Mechatork or something like that. Brimble, that's what his name. Brimble Mechatork. And so Brimble Mechatork was carrying a device that contained rings of magical power. So in essence, the players and we started. In essence, the players were tasked with stealing that from him. So we started en media res, so in the action, where the players were either on the side of or the top of the speeding train, and that's where I jumped them in, and I said, okay, describe your character, what they look like, and whether they're on the side or the top. And then I read off a description of the train, and I read off a description of this cart where they see this artificer walk in with two guards, and the objective was to secure the item that contained the rings, resulting in attack from everybody. But every group tackled the combat very differently, trying to lure him out, trying to ambush him. There's a whole one of them tried to talk their way in, one tried to talk their way out. So it was very interesting. So they fought Brimble Mechatork, kicked his ass. They found out that the two guards were clockworks, and that at the end they beat up Brimble, and they take his artifact, or they take his item, and I actually had a physical crib text So it's a big metal chunk that has like rotating discs on it that all have letters, and it will spell out a word, and the word's the password, and it opens up. So I had given all the players an index card that indicated the prep work they had done previously, and the index cards each had a clue on it. So they all got together and like look at the clues and try to figure out what the hell it meant. And each index card had a sentence clue, and the sentence equaled a letter. So they had to like solve the riddle and get a letter, and then they had to like take all the letters they found and spell a word with it. The word being the answer to the crypttext, and then they rotate the dials, open the physical crypttext, and slide it out. And then inside there was a map that I drew and a ring. And so the map itself was like folded up in a special way that like looked like a map on one side. Then you fold it up and there's like a message, but then there's also a message around like the outside edge of it. And the message was signed Brimble Mechatork. And as soon as they read out the message, like a chest flap opens up in Brimble Mechatork, and a sending stone starts talking, and it was like, "Congratulations, adventurers! You've passed my first test. Your next test is to fucking fight a dragon." So he was also a clockwork, and then we cut from there. And then I introduced a flashback mechanic where they've had time to prepare for the heist on a dragon's den. So if they think there's anything they would have prepared in the actual scene, they can go back in time, and we'll play out a quick scene as a flashback mechanic to get us to where we need to be. And I had a little 4-room dungeon. So there's like a trap tunnel, and then there was a room with a shrine in it. That was a puzzle that they could have solved to get a bonus. Then there was a forge room, and that was also a room that they could have, like a puzzle they could have solved to get a bonus. And then there was the lava flow with a dragon, a sleeping dragon, and behind him was a wall they could scale with the treasure room. No one fought the dragon. 2 of the groups explored all 4 rooms. One of the groups failed one of the challenges and locked it out. The other group succeeded on all the challenges. No one fought a dragon, but they all made it to the treasure at the end. And once they secure the treasure, the dragon then transforms into Brimble Mechatork and says, "Congratulations, adventurers! You've passed phase 2." And that's where we ended the one shot. Little twist at the end there. And my sales pitch, my Hollywood sales pitch for the game was Fast and the Furious meets Ocean's 11 in a fantasy setting, and I think it worked out. I think it worked out pretty well. Everyone had a blast. We did a little survey afterwards, and everyone loved it. Everyone wants more of that. Everyone enjoyed that as a method of team building and team bonding. I got some nice kudos, which is always nice to hear. But it sounds like everyone wants to do it more. So, and then I was challenged to write up a business plan of varying levels of scale for this new business venture. So yeah, that's very cool. But that's how that went. And then, I went out there on Monday, like last Monday? 2 Mondays ago? Anyway, I went out there 2 Mondays ago, got a cool tour of the Blizzard workspaces, took a lot of pictures of awesome statues. And then Tuesday I ran one of the games, met a lot of amazing people. Wednesday I had off, and my girlfriend and I went out to Disneyland California Adventure Park, and that was awesome. And then Thursday I ran 2 games back to back, and then Friday morning I flew out early as hell back home to pick up my kiddo. So yeah, it was a hell of a time. It was a very good time. Yeah, it was very cool, huge opportunity, and a very big feather in the cap, as it were. And yeah, I very much enjoyed it. I very much am thankful and appreciative for the opportunity and everything that's happened to like get to this point. And I'm very hopeful that it continues in the future. So that'd be very cool. Very cool. All right, let's check chat real quick. I'd rather do that than run Werewolf like every other company. I don't know any companies. I don't know any. I don't. I. That's not true. I have a couple of friends that run tabletop games for other companies like Riot and other stuff like that. So I had a lot of people that I asked for advice about this. And my intent is that if it gets or when it gets too big for me to do solo, that I can bring other professional GM friends along to be like, hey, we can do multiple games. We can do instead of, because I think after I was confident that I could do 3 games in a day, and I still am. I used to do 12-hour tabletop streams for charity, and I was literally on for 12 hours nonstop. So it was like 4 3-hour blocks. So I never stopped. I was in all of them, either running or playing. I don't want to do that, so I'm confident I can do 3 in a day. But hell, I'll be honest. After doing 2 in a day, I was pretty sauced. I was pretty beat. So I think 2 to 3 a day is my max. Anything more than that is I would have to bring somebody else on, which would be very cool, and I would love the opportunity to bring someone else into that. All right, let's see here. For some reason, whenever I think about something in media res, my mind immediately goes to all the players in free fall without parachutes. That's great. I love in media res in varying levels. I don't like you meet in a tavern. I feel like it's an incredibly played out trope. I also feel like it's very it's just not. The idea of me having an adventure spark and then having 4 strangers and then having me having to facilitate getting them together and also coming up with a reason for them to like take the adventure hook just fills me with anxiety. So almost every game I run these days, you guys are an established crew. You have known each other for in various capacity for X number of jobs. You have worked together before. I just don't like introduction episodes. They're not my jam. But yeah, we're doing one right now. Our Western sci-fi game is they're all part of a crew. That's it. The end. We're already on missions. We're not doing the introduction. You've already been introduced. Some of you may be only 1 month on the crew. Some of you may be 6 months. Some of you may be a year on the crew. But you're all there. Yeah. Thanks, guys. Thanks for it. Is fucking cool. It is cool. Paul, I do have a business plan, but I have to update it because it was made before I started doing like pro GM services and before I started doing this. So it is like the old Twitch, and that's pretty much it. Business plan. I got to add in. If you don't know, I professionally run games privately, not on stream. You can hire my services when I offer them. But that's not in my business plan, and neither is corporate GMing is the slang that I'm using for it, but I think I came up with something that sounded a lot more professional on my LinkedIn. I don't remember what the hell I called it. Something like team building RPG facilitator. I think is what my slightly more professional version of corporate GM is. Let me see. What do I have for my nonsense that I've written on the LinkedIn of my professional business profile? Owner and creative director of unMadeGaming, and then professional game master, and then corporate team building RPG facilitator. There we go. All right, cool. I believe we are caught up. How did I land the job? A member of the community works for Blizzard and supports the hell out of me. And said with more confidence than I had that I had what it takes to do that. And so I said, okay, I believe you. And that was that. And then they said, you're coming out. And I said, okay. WoW D&D game when? Ironically, Paul, WoW D&D is where I That's my first game I ever GM'd. So back in the day, Sword and Sorcery published a Warcraft, the role-playing game, and that came out before World of Warcraft, I want to say. And then when World of Warcraft dropped, they updated to another book called the World of Warcraft role-playing game. It's no longer being made. They lost the license for it, but you can still find the books on like eBay, probably. It uses D&D 3.5 rules, and it's pretty cool. I played it a lot. I really enjoyed it. Hello, Melissa. Oh, by werewolf you mean the mafia style? Oh, like werewolf, like, oh, okay, like everyone close your eyes. One of you's the werewolf. Okay, all right. I don't know what Paul is yelling when about, but all right. It does. Oh, are you yelling when about Space Western? It does take a lot of time to bring each player together. Yeah, I'm not a fan of it. Of bringing players together in that manner. I just say, you're a party. you guys figure it out. I pass the buck, and I'm like, you want to have secret missions that you know about that I don't know about? You got it. You have them. All there for you. All right, let's jump in to some of these pre-written cues. G. So I don't remember if I made it or G made it, but combined we made a document that is for all of the Ask Lich questions that breaks it down from where they came from, like whether they're from social media or like our Discord. And G updates them. And it's always funny to watch because I go in and check them, and then I can just watch some of them just get reordered. And sometimes she just sneaks in ones because sometimes they just go down in order. And she has definitely snuck some in here. But since we're on topic with Blizzard, I will answer some of G's questions that she has snuck in there. What are some things you learned about yourself as a GM during your time at Blizzard? Myself as a GM? Shit. I need to prepare differently. I think I am a more theater of the mind, and that works for a lot of people, but not everybody. And so because it doesn't work for everybody, I have to go with maps and miniatures because that is far more accessible. So I need to make what I do, I need to work accessibility into what I do, right? I need to bring what I have to the players and not bring the players to where I am. Which I feel, now that I said that out loud, it feels like a weird way to say that. But some of the feedback I got was like some people struggled with the theater of the mind stuff. So I will, in the future, have more physical resources, maps and miniatures and that kind of stuff for people. So really, it's meeting them at their level. And for this kind of environment, it ranged from seasoned players to people who've never even played before. So that's probably the biggest one. That and like, I know that like, this is my job and I am a professional, but like there's a level of casualness to what I do here. And I have been out of the game of corporate jargon and emails and other things for 4+ years now, for a little over 4 years now. And it was very apparent when I was communicating in corporate emails. I definitely was like, oh, I should have formatted that better, or oh, I should have thought to do that instead of the way I did it. So really it's just like it's I have to meet the players where they are, and then also I have to elevate myself to what I'm working. I have to match the company that I'm working with as far as professionality goes. Yeah, so, and I don't know why I didn't think of that before I jumped in, but it was very obvious once I jumped in, and I was like, ooh, oh, Don't like how I said that. Can't take it back. It's a whole ass email. Yeah, so all things that, like, minor things, but all things that are improvable for sure. Your Blizzard adventure, this is another question from G that she snuck in here. Your Blizzard adventure sounds dope as hell. Are you going to publish it? No. No. I'll be honest. My adventure is a handful of read aloud prompts that I wrote, a physical puzzle, a bunch of like index cards, and most of it's in my head. Outside of like the congratulations adventurers, you've made it. That I didn't really write a whole lot down. That and like stats for the dragon and the clockwork people. So if anything, in my spare time, if I get bored, I'll probably like write it up and throw it on Patreon. If anything. I hope this D&D session finds you well. That's fucking funny. That's funny. Let me see. What were my... I'm trying to pull up my my weird quotes that I... let's see here. The one shot was called Fire and Fortune, which is fun. Yeah, so here's my read-alouds. So my opening statement was, as the adventure begins, you find yourself clinging to the sides of a high-speed lightning rail, the arid winds of the desert whipping fiercely around you. The rail, a marvel of magic and engineering, cuts through the landscape at breakneck speeds, its metal sides humming with arcane energy. Some of you are hunched on top, crouched low against the howling wind, eyes squinting as the scenery blurs into streaks of brown and gold. The distant silhouette of Zypheria looms ahead, a fortress city rising like a mirage from the sands, promising danger and treasure. Below and around you, the other cars of the lightning rail carry unaware passengers and guarded secrets as you prepare to enact your daring heist. And then my Mechatorque was, brilliantly done, my daring adventurers. You've proven your mettle with flair and ingenuity. What you've just experienced was merely a prelude, a test of your skills and teamwork. Now the real quest awaits, a heist like no other, to steal from Pyranax, the Crimson Drake himself. Prepare yourselves, for this will require all your cunning, courage, and cleverness. I eagerly await to see how you handle the true challenge. Yeah, that was my bullshittery. But yeah, I'll eventually write it up into like a usable format and throw it over on Patreon. I need to make Patreon. I need to make more stuff from Patreon, especially since they added a new free tier. I should add some free shit on there. All right, let's see. Let's see what we got in here. Let me see what question strikes my fancy. Oh yeah, here's a good one. I'm gonna keep stealing G's questions. Even though you're an experienced pro GM, are you ever nervous about anything before a session starts? If so, what bothers you? Haha, yeah. I was shitting my pants about Blizzard. So professional GM or not, I was shitting my pants. Because on one hand, like, don't get me wrong, I have confidence in my own skills, but this is one of those moments where, like, this is the difference between GMing and professional GMing is this is my livelihood. So if I fuck up a home game, okay, enjoy your pizza, guys. I'll see you next week. But like, if Blizzard was a train wreck, I don't ever get hired again. And then, like, you know, you kind of catastrophize, right? So it's like, if it's a train wreck, they never hire me again. And then also, probably no one else does, because everyone talks. And eventually it will get out that it was a nightmare time. And then there goes any hope of that. And the same thing happens with like, just regular pro GM games. Like, I am the professional. And not that I don't feel like I can't be like, hey guys, I got to call out, I'm sick or whatever. But like, if I'm not having a good day, I have to sort of put that on and be like, okay, this session is not about me. You've hired me for a service, and just because I may be in a bit of a mental state, or like maybe I'm having a low day, or like my kid was a jerk, or as long as it's nothing tragic, or I get like a little stuffy. That's the word. Stuffy nose. Like I kind of had to like be the professional and still put on a good show. Not that I don't feel like I don't have like the faith and confidence I have in the players that have hired me. I don't. I feel like they would be understanding, but at the same time, I don't want to. I don't want to. I don't want to stress test that too much. So unless it's something tragic, like there are definitely games where like I'm fucking tired, man. There are games where I'm tired and it has been a long week. And like I prepped for the game, but also I'm sleepy. But I still put it on. So yeah, there are definitely things I'm nervous about. And like I on the simple side of things, I'm nervous. Like, oh, I hope no one can tell that I'm having a bad day, or I hope no one can tell that I wasn't giving it 100. I was only giving it like 80%. Because I would hate for that to like my mood to ruin your game, kind of thing. And then G also said in chat, but also ever during your regular sessions. Yeah, there are definitely times in my regular sessions, like I'll say regular sessions, like the ones I stream, where like I feel underprepared, or something about what I've prepared feels lacking, or like I'm prepared most of the way. But like there's an intentional like, and then they have to figure it out, but I haven't like spelled it out kind of thing. Where like I'm like, oof, I hope this goes on, hope this works. And then there's always like minor things where I'm like, I think this will take an hour, and then it takes 15 minutes, and I'm like, shit, I don't have anything to fill this content with. Those are minor nerve things. Yeah, I hope that answers your question. Yeah, I still get nervous all the time. It's a crazy world. All right. We'll take another question from G. We're just crushing the G questions. We crushed Melissa questions last month. G says, regarding Alien, what's the hardest part about a campaign coming to an end? What's the hardest part? I broke. I have 404 error. Streamer not found. Like I want to say nothing, right? But for good reason. Like obviously, like with longer running shows, you become more and more attached to those characters. And obviously you want to see them play out in as many stories and parts of their narrative and their relationships. And there's always scenes and nuances that you want to explore. But when the campaign comes to an end, that's it. That's the end of them. But at the same time, I've made a joke several times in recent weeks about Joss Whedon, and his inability to end a show. And he just runs shows until they're 16 seasons in, and everyone's like, okay, well, it could be over now. Which may or may not be true. That might just be my interpretation of Joss Whedon. But there comes a point where like you can't keep the show going. Because it has now become formulaic. It has now become predictable, right? You're jumping the shark, as the adage goes. So I look forward to the the end of a campaign. The hardest part about ending a campaign in general is making sure it has a fitting conclusion, right? I would hate, and I've done it, it's happened a lot. Many of our shows have this, where like it ends, and you're like, okay, that was a conclusion. Like you solved the thing. But there are definitely other games where like you still want more, and there just isn't any of it. Like I would like a second season or a third season of certain shows, just because I feel like we didn't get enough to explore, or like we teased, like we left on like a little bit of a cliffhanger to leave it open ended that there might be a second season. But that's the hardest is ending a campaign and you don't feel like the story is fully concluded. Like there's more story to tell and you never tell it. That's the hardest part. Other than that, like if the story is like with Alien, that story ended. And even if it didn't end how it did, like it was coming to an end and it ended a fitting way. Void ended a very fitting way. Every time we think that Atari is done, it ends in a fitting way every time, right? Like it is a very, but then again, there are other shows, shit. What was the space game that Gnome ran? Not the Expanse one, the other one, Starstruck. Starstruck was a very good, like, weirdly, softly emotional show, that ended in a way that, like, I think at the time we all wanted more and just never got around to it. So while the show concluded, or the show ended, I don't think it concluded. So I think that's my answer. The hardest part about a campaign coming to an end is ending and not concluding. Yeah. I think that's the answer I'll go with. Death makes games / shows more real, I think. Alien RPG you ran had a satisfying conclusion. Thanks, Jeff. I agree. It was a very satisfying conclusion. There are other games like Void, where we didn't die. The end is left intentionally ambiguous, but like that show concluded. Like it was leading up to something, it concluded. Same with Cyberpunk Phoenix. Yeah, Cyberpunk Phoenix was also very much a game where it ended but didn't conclude. And there's a number of them. You can go back on the show and you can find plenty of them that just ended and didn't conclude. Hell, Men of Letters, I think, ended but didn't conclude. That's my opinion. But like a game with a good conclusion, like that's satisfying. That's very satisfying. Like if Atari Twilight rollout was the end, that's a fitting conclusion, I think. The fact that we are coming back for a 4th season for Atari Midnight, I think is great. But I think season 4 of Atari Twilight is much more of an epilogue than it is like. In my mind, Atari Midnight is the Serenity movie to Firefly, right? I think, and Firefly's a bad example because the ending was it ended, didn't conclude. But I think the ending or the conclusion of Rollout was a good conclusion. And I appreciate the 10-year time jump for Midnight. But I think essentially Midnight is going to be its own story, set in the universe, right? But I think so much time has passed and sure, the characters are going to be back. But I think this is a super niche reference for like 2 people. I think this is going to be like Degrassi versus Degrassi, the next generation, right? It's going to be 2 shows in the same universe with all the same people, but very different. Jeff says, I haven't watched Void yet. Going to watch through another, but with the Alien movie coming out August 16th, plus the TV series come out, might be worth doing something more soon. I don't 100% know if we're going to do more Alien. We've done Alien for 4 years. That was 4 seasons of Alien. And I think we're going to fuck around with some Fallout stuff very soon. I'm running a space western that is not streamed, but is recorded. It will be recorded for the players to go back and rewatch. And then if they decide they want to put it on visible for everyone else, they can decide that. but I won't promise that now. And then I want to try to do some Dragonbane. I want to get that in there. I want to try this another game, which this might just be like for me. I mean, playing this game is 100% for me. There's a game called Fabula Ultima, which is basically a JRPG tabletop game. I really want to fuck around with that game. What else? What else is there? Obviously the new Walking Dead game. I want to mess around with that. Yeah, that's what's on my radar right this second, I think. Yeah, so I don't know that we'll do more Alien right now. But maybe we'll do some one-shots and stuff when the game comes out. When the new movie comes out. Sort of to like boost numbers for the existing show. But as soon as Romulus dropped a trailer, our numbers skyrocketed on YouTube for people watching the show, which is very cool. How about Paranoia? I've played Paranoia in person. I don't have an opinion on it. That's what I'll say. I don't know enough about the game to have formed an opinion. I think Paranoia is more of a one-shot kind of game than it is more like a campaign. So definitely a maybe. Things like 10 Candles and the other one with the Jenga tower that I can't think of. Those are more like one-shot style games. Yeah, Walking Dead and Fallout should be very cool. All right, what other questions do we have here? Any more from chat real quick? No. Okay, cool. Let's see here. Melissa asks, what is your favorite genre to play in? Sometimes I see a question and just start saying it before I have an answer formed in my head. I don't know. Here's what I'll say. Here's my cop-out answer. In as many settings as I can fit it in, I do try to sneak in some weird eldritch horror. Not to say that eldritch horror is my favorite genre to play in, but I do try to put it in. There's eldritch horror in Vaesen. There's eldritch horror in Tales from the Loop in games that I run. The Dark Between the Stars is eldritch horror in Coriolis. I always try to add in some weird eldritch horror. And in every fantasy game, there's like a trope that like goblins are like everyone's like level 1, combatant. I use zombies in every fantasy game. So I love adding zombies and existential dread to games. I don't think that answers the question, but I don't think I have a genre. I really like playing in space games. I really like playing in sci-fi games. And I really like playing in fantasy games. I think it's less about the genre and more about the nuances. Like, do I want to play Star Wars? Not really. But I do like space games, and I do like sci-fi games. That would be that's very cool. Do I want to play, stock Dungeons and Dragons? Nah, it's fine. But like, no, I would rather play some other weird fantasy bullshit. But I do like fantasy. But fantasy is also like this huge thing. I'd play some Game of Thrones level, like Machiavellian, like very diplomacy kind of game. I'd play that too. That'd be super fun. I also love noir games. I also love games that like are weird and Victorian and dark and gritty. Yeah, so I don't think I have a favorite genre to play in. Now that being said, there are absolutely genres that are easier for me to just whip up some shit. And that is probably the 80s. So Tales from the Loop, it's fairly easy for me to whip up some bullshit because I grew up on 80s media. I am in a weird weird. I'm in a weird familial generation where I am a millennial and my parents are Gen X. Um, Usually it's Gen Xers are having Gen Z kids, and that's not the case. So my parents are in their 50s and I'm in my mid 30s. Um, so like we were watching the same movies. I grew up on what they thought was cool in the 80s. So like I grew up on all of the typical 80s trope movies. So it's very simple for me to cobble together a Tales from the Loop style game, and then fantasy. Like I also grew up on watching like Lord of the Rings and reading Lord of the Rings and reading The Hobbit, and I grew up on the Harry Potter books before Rowling became a TERF, and I grew up on like the Tales of Merlin books and all these other fantasy books, Richard Knack and Christie Golden. So like I consumed fantasy at a rate that was alarming. So yeah, those are I can fire out those games quickly. That being said, doesn't mean that it's my favorite genre to play in. Yeah, I don't think I have a favorite genre to play in. I like many of them. I'm trying to think the inverse of that question. Do I have a least favorite genre to play in? I don't think I have a least favorite either. I think my least favorite to run in is established settings. Um, that's why I don't want to run a Star Wars game because there's just so much Star Wars information out there that like I don't I don't want to learn 10 galactic billion years about Star Wars. It's one of the reasons why I was iffy about running the One Ring. If it weren't for the fact that like I have a lot have a lot of knowledge about the One Ring, I probably wouldn't have done it. Um, yeah, I hope that answers the question. Let's see. Jeff asks in chat, "Are you set up to do in-person events?" What do you mean about in-person events? Like physically in my home, at a convention? Can you hire me and fly me out to whatever state you're in? What is the extent of your question? And also asks My Little Pony the RPG. I wouldn't not play that game, mostly as a lark, but I don't know anything about My Little Pony to have a fucking stake in the game. I know nothing. So I wouldn't know where to start. But I do know that Hasbro made it, and apparently it's fun. It's called Pony Finder, something like that. Yeah, so Jeff, if you get back to your question of are you set up to do in-person events with a little bit more detail, I can perhaps answer that question. Let's see here. I think we have time for one-ish more questions here in our little chat here. Um, ba, 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 ba. Okay, this is a cool one. Okay, I'm gonna choose this question because it's gonna be a long one. Um, Let me quickly bounce back to chat real quick. Jeff says probably like home filmed games. No, I am not set up for home filmed games, and I don't at this time. I don't want to be. My home games are for me, and that's it. Um, my home games are like we're in pajamas, we're scarfing down pizza. So yeah, it's definitely not fit content for the internet. That being said, once I convert this room that I'm in into our tabletop room, I am 100% looking for ways to make sure that it is a tax write-off for the business, and I do have every intention of trying to convince my family to sit around the table that I will eventually build here and record a podcast in the house. But no, so the reason I asked you to clarify is I was at the beginning of this video, I had mentioned that I had just been flown out to California to run games for Blizzard. So yes, in a way, I am set up to run games in person, but it is expensive for the person hiring me to do that. And then I guess if you were local to me, like, it wouldn't be unheard of if you get my contact information and we can set up a safe location to play. I don't have any problem with that. But my house, other than my streaming office, is not set up for recorded games of that kind. All right, let's jump into this question because it's going to be the last one because we usually wrap up around 9 Eastern. This is a question from Iquin, and it says, what's your stance on more... This is multi-P? What's my mouth doing today? Multi-part question. So, what is your stance on morally ambiguous campaigns? 1, love them. Fuck yes. Morally gray is where I live. Absolutely. Is it okay if there is never a correct answer? Yes. That is what the ambiguous of morally ambiguous is. If there is a clear answer, it's not ambiguous. If you have the option between right and wrong, that is not ambiguous. In my opinion. However, I think it's perfectly acceptable, and I think there should not be a right answer when it comes to morally ambiguous. I think that there should be no right answer. I think it should be a hard choice, and it should be the lesser of two evils, or the however you want to reframe that. What pitfalls should one watch out for if players? What pitfalls should one watch out for if planning to run such a campaign beyond ask the players? Well, ask the players. 1, 2. 2. A morally ambiguous campaign very, very much needs a lines and veils. Safety tools are like morally ambiguous campaigns can get out of pocket quick, right? Because usually your morals are often based on triggerable life events, right? I'll pick an easy one, right? I know a lot of people who have had no problem with like harm or endangerment coming to children in a game, as long as it was like, not gratuitous and fit the narrative before they were a parent. And the moment they became a parent, that changed for them. So that's like an easy one. But like, that's one of those things where like, you need to have lines and veils, consent and safety needs to be adequately communicated, because you can get out of pocket real quick with a morally ambiguous game, without even intending to do it. Right. So that's pitfall number 1, I think is a big pitfall. And then the other pitfall, if you're planning to run something, is you need empathy and the ability to read the room, right? Like, you need to know what is... I don't like this, the way that I'm going to phrase this, but you need to know what is acceptable versus unacceptable levels of uncomfortability, right? Like, if the players are appropriately uncomfortable with the choice they have to make because that's the setting and that's what everyone's agreed upon, great. But the moment you need to know when that line is getting closer to like, ooh, we're genuinely uncomfortable with this, we don't like this anymore. Which again kind of goes back to consent and safety tools. But if you don't have the ability to read the room, that is a problem, and I wouldn't recommend that for you. And then the other one I think is morally ambiguous, and so there's a common trope with like prep doesn't survive contact with the players, right? I think morally ambiguous games are a cornerstone of that. Is what you think in your head is morally ambiguous, your players are going to find 6 different ways to skirt the rules on that and try to get both outcomes. Like, they're going to do everything they can to get all the good outcomes, and then you become like logistics rules lawyering, which is like, I encourage that. Like, if you're gonna try, so you need to be able to improv and think of pitfalls on the fly of like, okay, if they do this, it will circumvent this part of the moral ambiguous challenge, but also it's going to cause these other problems. So you kind of need to like have a big world picture of like how the different elements of your moral ambiguous action will affect the world in long term. Which is, it's not easy to make a world feel alive and like actions have consequences. That's just I think that's generally hard for a lot of GMs, myself included. Yeah, so I would say that is something to look out for. Let's see. Rather, things that are directly connected to moral hard choices. Tips on how to make those kinds of choices pay out for the players. Payout is an interesting term. So payout usually means like be successful for the players. I think I know what you're saying is is how do you make them feel like their choice really mattered. There's also like I think in the beginning of the Curse of Strahd book, it tells you that like this is a sad, depressing world, and that you should encourage levity whenever you can, whenever is appropriate. If every single choice in the game is a morally ambiguous, tragic, like you can save this town, like you can save this town, but like the other town dies. Like if everything is like that kind of thing, it's exhausting. It's mentally taxing. It's tiresome. Yeah, it is very much a constant slog. So you have to have good choices. You have to have black and white choices as much as you have gray choices. But I think the best way to make those choices really pay off for the players is really show the impact, right? Like if you, depending on the size, the scope and scale of the moment, like if it's something small, yeah, you can kind of improv on the spot. But like I said, with like saving one town versus the other town, right? Like you need to have like geopolitical outcomes, like this needs to be on the news or whatever makes like the bard in the next town over needs to be like, you know, or the bard in the capital needs to be singing on this, or like forces get mobilized, or like think about when something happens here, like in the real world, what are the generation spanning consequences, right? How quick does word travel? You need to make it feel real, which increases the player buy-in, which increases the stakes, which then I think is the payoff, right? Is knowing the weight of the choice that they have to make. But it's like it's easy to be like, oh, this is a game of pretend. Yeah, I choose that town. Doesn't really matter. They're all numbers and words, right? But like when everyone's fully bought in, the weight of things is I think what is I think what is the payoff, right? And it's hard. I love Morally Gray, but it's not even when I do it, it's not always a success. So like I would say one of the things you can focus on is not making it a tragic mess. And if it is a mess, then like it's one of those like aftercare moments where you need to discuss with the players and be like, hey, for example, like we all fall down from Glenbrook Chronicles. That last 40 minutes was complete improv on everyone's part, and was not in what I wrote, and was not what I planned or what I thought. It wasn't even my options of things. That got morally gray real fast. And and in a way that I had to like check, like in the green room between the show and the after show, I had to like check in with people and be like, hey, are we okay? Or did I accidentally just traumatize you in real life? Like, where are we on this? So in my opinion, that was a morally gray thing that got out of pocket. It went bad. But like everyone rallied together and like, they were like, nope, this feels real. This was the thing. And like what came out of it was great. So being the ability to pivot on that, or the ability to like, I don't know, heal that wound, right? Is another great skill for those kind of things. But just be prepared for like your morally gray shit to not always pay off, right? I try to add moral ambiguity to a lot of things, and not everything fully pays off all the time. There is a lot more. I have a lot more intention to add moral ambiguity than you ever see on screen. There are so many more things that I think are morally ambiguous than survives contact with the players. And sometimes their ideas are just so fucking good that I'm like, yeah, you did it. You got it. You solved the riddle. You solved the puzzle for sure. So I hope that answers your question. If not, DM me and I'll be happy to talk moral ambiguity with you some more. Yeah, not everything can be a Telltale video game. Yeah, that's for sure. That's for sure. All right, cool. That is it for today's after show. After show? What is happening? That is it for today's Ask a Lich. We have another one coming up in next month. It'll be we have one next month. It'll be the third Monday in June, which is, I don't know what that is, like June 17th? I don't know. I just shot in the dark there. Is it June 17th? Hell yeah, dude. June 17th. Fuck yeah. All right. So I can math, but I can't word. So June 17th is that. Yeah, that's all I got, friends. I hope you enjoyed this. Yeah, slide in the Discord. Join us over there. Join us on the Patreon. Patreon has a free tier. You just go up and you just click join the free tier. And there will be some new free stuff coming out in the future if you are not already a member there. Yeah, that's all I got, I think. Enjoy the rest of your week, friends. We have a light week here on the channel. And I will see you this weekend for more shenanigans in our one-shots and in Mundus Novus, where we're trying to solve some weird 19th century supernatural mysteries. All right, that's it for me. Thank you all for being here. I love your faces. And I will see you guys next time. Bye.